Peace, family. This is Charlie O, Bay Area producer. You're watching FeedbackMagazine.com.
FeedbackTheMagazine.com is a black-owned, black-operated news outlet. We don't exhibit the same principles that the mainstream media has. We are our own entity.
Hello everybody, this is Sonny Pinckney and you're watching FeedbackTheMagazine.com. I have here with me today Bay Area producer Charlie L. How's everything?
That's all well, family. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thankful to be here.
No problem. Who are some of the artists and producers you have worked with in the industry?
So I've worked with, artist-wise, I've worked with the Who's Who in the Bay Area, Keep the Sneak. And, I ran a studio for a long time, so on top of being a producer, I always had my own music studio. God bless the child who got his own, so I always wanted to have my own. If they had it and it worked good, I'd go buy it. So having a studio always gave me the privilege, because even if they was gonna come in and do studio time, then I could have an opportunity to, let them hear some of my beats. And that's how I worked with, most of the artists and producers I've worked with. I worked with Dwayne Wiggins, I worked with JT the Bigger Figure, San Quinn, had the privilege of recording Keisha Cole on one of my productions. So just a myriad of artists, been blessed and fortunate and had the honor of recording tons of very talented
Okay. How did you get your start in the music industry?
That depends on what you mean by start. What do you mean by start?
Like who taught you how to produce music and who taught you how to make beats?
Nobody ever taught me how to make beats. I was always a good watcher, somebody who kind of sits back quietly and, are quiet enough to be a fly on the wall and watch the people who are good at it. First time I had an epiphany, music-wise, was watching Rob Lowe in the Guitar Center. So shout out to Rob Lowe, who's a very well known producer in the Bay Area. Did a lot of the Mob Figure stuff from Pittsburgh, I believe. Just a phenomenal producer. And I was saving my pennies to upgrade my studio and looking to buy what's called at the time it was the Korg Triton. Came out in the mid-90s. And I was in there trying to fidget with it, trying to figure it out. And I was saying to myself and to a buddy of mine who was with me, I was like, man, this keyboard's kind of hard to figure out. So I was used to using something different. I think at the time I was using ASRs and was trying to figure out how to use that machine. And Rob Lowe happened to be in there and he was like, nah, family, this ain't hard. And he jumped on that Triton, turned the power on, and BS you not, is cussing good, family?
This is my magazine.
Shit you not, in 2 minutes he banged one out.
Yeah.
Boom, it was over. And he turned the keyboard off and on, just totally threw that beat away. And it was fire. Totally threw it away by turning the keyboard off and on, and then banged another one out right in front of me. And then after seeing that, it was game over. Something clicked. And at that point, I think I felt like I figured out. Now, I'd been making beats before then. I did plenty of music for plenty of people, but it was at that point I felt like things had changed in me.
So would it be correct for me to say that you didn't have a mentor like a lot of people?
No, I had mentors.
Okay.
I would be disrespectful to those who taught me all I know, and I had the privilege of being around. One of my early mentors was JT the Bigger Figure. Though in meeting him it was a business transaction. I had a studio at the time. I had a 1,000 square foot facility at a very young age. I always had studios. So 18, when most of my friends were shooting off to college, I was already leasing my own building and, buying music equipment and recording artists, making money, producing for people, starting a label, having artists signed to me as an executive, as a record label. But I had JT the Bigger Figure happened to be in the same building. I was leasing at the time, I think another spot or visiting another studio. And he bought a very famous artist. I won't name that person, but he bought a very famous artist. And he was like, man, I got this tape recording. I need a beat put to it. And it was a freestyle from this artist. And at the time, this was like one of the hottest artists ever. And I guess maybe there was a freestyle in the alleyway or something like that. And he's like, bro, turn this into some fire for me. And he left it with me. The next day he came back and it was fire. I had done something good for him. And from then on, we kept doing business with each other. We never stopped kind of working together off and on throughout the years. I've been You know, I had the privilege of working for him and learning from him for, you know, better part of 15, 20 years. And I learned a lot from that dude, just as far as drive and creativity and being inspired to do things that ain't nobody else doing, entrepreneur-wise and business-wise. That's the man. I can't think of very few people who have done the kind of things that he does, got into the kind of business ventures, and then had the success. He's always been on the forefront. If you ask anybody, he's been on the forefront of some of the starting technologies, some of the trends. He either started them or he was there at the split second that they hit and was able to capitalize. So being around him and hanging out with him, if you listen to the man talk and watch him do business, you can't help but to be inspired. So he was a big influence on me. Dwayne Wiggins is another one. Dwayne Wiggins, I had the privilege of, you know, essentially living in his studio for 5 years or so at the House of Music. So shout out to Dwayne Wiggins. Just a fantastic inspiration for me. Dwayne will just change the way you listen to music. So you'll be working with him, and you know, it's subtle, so you gotta pay attention to it. It's really subtle and it's naturally creative, but if you pay attention to it, you'll learn from it. You'll watch him produce an artist, not only music-wise, but more so vocally, and finding a pocket for different instruments. You know, just what pocket is. A lot of artists don't even know what pocket is, so he taught me a lot about that, and was a huge influence on me, creative-wise. Taught me how to listen. I wasn't a great listener before working with him.
Now, can you explain to my audience what is pocket? Because like you said, there's a lot of people that don't know, including myself.
Yeah. So the best way I could describe pocket, and I'm going to probably tear this analogy up, but the best way I could describe pocket, if you ever had cake and you eat cake and you get a very dense cake, you kind of wish for pockets of air. So it's when a baker bakes, sometimes they can roll it out a certain way, put butter in it a certain way, so that when it bakes, it's still got some flake to it, and in between there's pockets of air. That's what gives it its softness. That's what gives it the palate for your mouth. So music can be the same way. You can listen to a rhythm, and let's just say it's a basic rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pocket is sometimes the space in between the beats.
Okay.
It's the quiet spots that you're listening for. So it's not always just, you know, playing all the way through. It's about
So basically,
melody.
you don't need no wet dead air.
Yeah,
Okay.
dead air is what you want.
Okay.
But it's where you place the dead air that's the most important. So that's what pocket is, if I was to describe it in a nutshell.
Okay. Now, you said that you've been in the industry since you was 18 years old. You've been leasing out buildings, and while your friends was going off to college. What is the one thing you noticed since you entered the industry that has changed, either music-wise or technology-wise?
I mean, music is always evolving. It's always changing. There's always an evolution of sound and what's cool and what's not, and what's hip and what ain't. So that's always constantly evolving. I try my best not to fall into those fads, if you will, musically, and kind of stay doing my own thing. And if there is something that's popular, in order to stay relevant, you do have to incorporate some of that stuff and involve as a producer. But technology-wise, I mean, that's taking leaps and bounds, where there was a time where you had to go to the store and, you know, spend $2,000 and buy a Korg Trident or a Yamaha motif, if you will. That's no longer. There's kids that are making bang on their phone. You can pull your iPhone out and make bang. You can pull your iPad out and make bang. There's people making, you know, phenomenal music on a computer program that they downloaded for free. They snatched up some crack software, but they make it fire.
Yeah.
And sonically, it sounds amazing. You know, back in the day, you had to have the mixing board, you had to have some ADATs, you had to have an engineer who knew what he was doing. But now the sounds that you can get sonically can put you right up there, as long as you're a creative person.
Now, that leads me to my next question. You've been in the industry, I know, over 2 decades. Is making music easier now, or was it harder back then? Because, like you said, the technology is far more advanced. You can make music basically from the inside of your apartment or your house.
Yeah. It's harder now. It's harder now. And I'm only talking about for me. For the kids that are coming up in this day and age with this technology, it's probably easy. It's probably like making a sandwich. But for me, I grew up using all of that older technology where your choices were limited. And having limited choices, having boundaries on what that technology is capable of inspires creativity. You think about people who had 3 seconds of sampling time on their drum machine, and they could only fit a few sounds, so they had to come up with creative ways in order to be able to fit more than 3 seconds. So they'd speed the record up, and it only lasts 2 seconds long, and then they put it in their drum machine and they slow it back down, back to a regular tempo. And that would cause some creative effects to the sound. That would change the way the frequency ranges you could hear. It changed everything, changed the texture. So you had to do some very creative things with your restraints. And I think that those kind of restraints, those kind of boundaries on human beings, those make very creative things happen. For me, when I got endless options, endless amount of sounds I can get on the computer and I can basically pull any sound I want, I suffer creatively. Creative choices, it's too many choices. I like the restricted part, so even in my own personal studio, I don't use the new stuff very often.
Oh, okay. So you're not evolving with the times, you're just comfortable with your own equipment.
No, I have to find a way to restrain myself from going into the computer and jumping on the computer to make music. It can be done. Like I said, there's people making bang with those things. But for me to be able to use it, I gotta incorporate it into the old.
Okay.
I gotta bring it into I still got the same drum machines and the same keyboards that I was buying in the Guitar Center that day when I met Rob Lowe. That's still there. So I find a way to incorporate some of the new stuff, bring some of the new sounds into that older technology I'm still using, so I can keep the boundaries, keep the restraints, so I don't suffer from too many choices.
When you talk to like the up and coming and aspiring artists, what advice do you give them about the musical industry, business wise and public relations wise?
I don't tell people what to say, so public relations wise, quite honestly, I've never been asked any advice on public relations. I try to be a good example as best I can, but it is what it is. As far as the music business part, a good friend of mine once told me he was in a music store. I might have been there, and there was an OG there working, and he was talking about music publishing. And he was like, man, listen, if you ain't got a publishing check, you ain't got a royalty check, you're not in the game. So don't talk about you in the business or you in the music industry until you get paid for what you do and get a publishing check. So that's always been a goal of mine, and I've had some success there. So that's the same advice I give to the young up and coming, man. Turn it into a business. If you're not making money, you're not getting a check. And if you can get yourself a publishing check, and now it's easier than ever with streaming technology. Really, it's far from taking off. It is the industry now. Streaming is the industry. So I tell them, if you can get your music up there and get people to stream and get people to play and get a check in the mail and feed your family, then do it. But make it a business.
Yeah. Now, speaking of buying your masters and collecting your royalties, Chris Brown just recently brought his masters, as well as Sierra was purchased her masters as a gift from her husband, Russell Wilson. What are your thoughts about that?
Should have never sold them. It's very difficult. I know when you trying to feed your family or change your life, and you have opportunity and people dangle that carrot in front of you. But I had great mentors, especially in JT, and fuck a 360 deal. Don't ever give them your masters. That's your legacy. That's your that's your business. So when you sell that, you're pretty much giving the farm away. Hold on to it, and if you can go get them, go get them.
Now, are you currently mentoring anybody, and how important is it for someone of your caliber to be a mentor?
I don't even use that kind of language, to be honest. I don't use the language mentor. I just don't prescribe to it. I just try to be a good person as best I can be. If there's somebody up and coming and they trying to be the same thing, they trying to be on the same height, be a good person, learn. I could see that light in them like I saw in myself, or I wanted people to see, then they just come around, just be around.
You don't like labels?
Nah, I don't really use them like that. Yeah, I don't really use them like that. I don't use the mentor thing. Because even though they're younger people, they still people just like me, and I'm gonna probably learn a lot from that person at the same time they learn it from me. So.
Okay. My next question is, how important is it for a person of your caliber to bestow wisdom on up-and-coming artists? Because nowadays you have to be wild on social media and create like a, basically like act crazy. So how important is it for a person of your stature to, let's not do that, you know, you let your talent speak for itself?
Yeah, it's different now. Like kids, when I was coming up, they grew up in the neighborhood, and you know your OG homie would say, "Hey, bro, you gotta cut that out. You gotta cut that shit out." First of all, you can't do that here, and second of all, I'm your big homie, and I'm telling you that that's inappropriate. Unfortunately, kids growing up on social media, there is no big homie that's gonna say, "Hey, bro, don't do that. That ain't a good look, and we don't do that around here." Because around here is everywhere now. So it's ultra important. So again, I don't tell people what to do. I may nudge them a little bit, pull them to the side and holler at them. I think that's ultra important. I think, we could do that more. I don't see a lot of folks doing that. But, grabbing somebody that, maybe straying off into the wrong direction, exploiting themselves in a way that's not really beneficial or it's not going to pay off in the long run, couldn't be more important, especially nowadays. There's cameras everywhere.
Okay. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your record company and also who is on your roster?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's myself, another brother named Shabazz, and Cali Cash, three wise men, started a company, Trendsetters, late 2017, 2018, early. I went to junior high with these brothers. They watched them do Shahada. Them is my brothers, and we went ahead and started a record label specifically to start marketing our own records, putting out our own records, own clothing line. It's really family orientated, so it's Cash's son, it's my son, it's they friends, it's Cash, and any production stuff that I got going on, I kind of incorporate Trendsetters right into it. So Trendsetters, right now, very, very small, very humble, but up and coming.
Okay. Now, people want to know, and I know some people that are in the music industry, they're underground. What is the proper way for underground artists to first get your music played on the radio and actually get an interview with a person such as yourself? Is there a correct way or a proper way to approaching someone of your stature?
Yeah, you keep using that language, man. Someone show your stature. I appreciate that, family. I appreciate that, but I don't use that kind of language. I'm just a regular dude like everybody else, no better, no worse.
Well, somebody,
But like, so if somebody wanted to work with me, I only take what I like. I only listen and give people an opportunity to work with me if I like what they're doing. Because it's not, like I've done the money thing. Like I fed my family, like literally, my daughter's right over there. I bought diapers, selling CDs of my own music, or, I didn't put the rent down selling music. Taking care of my family, paying our bills, and, taking care of my wife and children, making music. I've done that, and I know what that feels like. And you could become a slave to that, like, making music for money. It changes you, and not always for the best. Not always for the best. I done had some real difficult times doing that, and learned a lot from it. So now, I go to work like everybody else. Whether it's as an entrepreneur or as an employee, it doesn't matter. I go to work like everybody else. But musically, in order to be creative and be inspired, I gotta like your stuff. I gotta want to work with you, and more than likely, I'll reach out to you. Somebody will say, "Hey, this person I'm doing something different," or they got a voice, but they might need some polishing. That's the kind of stuff I enjoy, finding young producers who may need some polish and some direction musically, and helping them out, or finding an artist who hasn't found their voice yet. That's a big deal. A lot of mainstream artists that we listen to every day, they didn't always have a voice. They had different voices that they were probably borrowing from this person, borrowing from that person, borrowing from this person, whoever was popular at the time when they were coming up. And then there was an artist developer and a producer, or a mentor of some type, or I hate using that freaking word, but this is the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Somebody that can help them find their voice. So if I can see that in somebody, and I can see it, like I'm inspired by it, then it'll inspire me to make music with that person. I'll reach out, or people can hit me on, I get people that hit me on Instagram, or they hit me on social media in some form or fashion, and if I like the stuff, I'll go check them out. I'll go, if I like it, I'm gonna reach out.
What's your one pet peeve that, as a producer or a person that's in the industry, that you like that you hate? Is it like a person jacking beats or stealing something, that musical sound that you worked hours and months on, that they taking credit
Nah,
for?
man, none of that stuff bothered me. None of that stuff bothered me. Like, oh man, I was the first one doing Hayes and beats. Like, hey, like I was the first one. Listen, bro, that's gone, family. That ship has sailed. So you got to kind of let that kind of stuff go. That never bothered me. I think the biggest thing that bothered me is, like, I hear people throwing around the industry where, oh, you got to get in the industry, you got to get in the industry. I'm like, dude, you smoking the pipe dream, fam. This a business.
Yeah.
This a business, and this industry that people refer to, man, like, that's like hitting the lotto and getting struck by lightning. So it's the same as, like, when you see the young kid crossing over in the park and he's like, I'm going to the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, bro, what? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. But how are you eating right now? What are you doing to make that future happen? So that's the biggest thing that bothers me. Like, I don't see, sometimes the people throw around the industry word, talk about being in the music business and music industry, but I don't see the investment, and I can see how naive that sometimes that can look. They don't realize that as soon as
It's different levels.
it's not even a different level thing, and yes, there is. There's people that are multi-millionaires, man, but those people are few and far between. There's also people who wake up every day 5 a.m. and they work till 8 p.m. and they get off and they be some type of father for a few hours, and then they be a husband, and then they get to do music, and they still feed their family making music. So if you're doing something like that, you're already in the industry. You're already in the business.
Couple more questions. How has your friend Q the Scientist impacted you music-wise?
I do forever, man. What a good person.
You guys have played in two? Or just one?
But musically, he's one of those people who also doesn't care about somebody taking this or taking that from him. He's humble that way, but he's not afraid to share. So he'll just, hey man, look, check this out. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. This is how you do this. So he was one of the first person that, actually, he was the first person to introduce me to a compressor, and I'm not going to explain what compression is, but he was the first person that, taught me what one is, invited me into his studio, showed me how to hook one up, what it did, and from then it was on and popping. I got tons of compressors, man, tons of effects. But yeah, man, he's not afraid to share. So that was big for me, because he showed me how to use that. Matter of fact, I think Q might have showed me how to use the MPC. Quiet as this cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I recently interviewed Q the Scientist a couple of weeks ago, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but basically he feels that the younger generation is worried about instant success right now, like they want to make instant money right now. Do you believe that's true?
I mean, some people probably like that. I don't know. There might be some folks, who don't like money and success. I don't know nobody that don't like money and success. If you don't like money and success, we ain't hanging out. I can't do it. I like positive people that want money and success, man. That's natural. That's okay. It's okay to win. God wants us to win.
Yeah, of course.
So go win.